Yo, welcome back to Projects Gaming. My name is Cal, and today we're going to be looking at another Jonsbo case. This one is the C6 Max. So they already have the original C6, but this is a little bit bigger. But before we start, please subscribe, like, hit the bell notification, and leave us a comment whether you think this is the case for you or you prefer the original one. And also, if you're in the market for a gaming mouse, please check out Projects Gaming Sleeper. It's available on Amazon US. Currently it's out of stock, but we're going to be looking to restock it very soon. So let's get to it. There you go, we just unboxed it, and then in the box you get the case itself and the strap you can attach on. And just initial thoughts, on the front of the I/O you have a power button, you have a USB, you have an audio out, and then a USB Type-C. So the way, you don't actually need any hardware to open up this case. So right here on the back you have a button here, you push down, that pops off the top. Right, just like that. And then the side panels, you can just essentially just push them out. There you go. And then on this side, you can just push it out as well. So this case is pretty much all mesh except for this window here. And they have dust filters on the bottom, no dust filters on the sides. And let's pop this one out. There we go. So super easy to get into. Okay, so in this bag you have some tools for HDD, SSD as well, and then I'm assuming the rest is for the motherboard, and a bunch of zip ties. And then here are the connectors. So this one is a USB 3.0, and then there's also connected with a Type-C. And then this is the audio. And then this one should be the start button, restart, all that. And then on the top, you can actually take this off, you don't need it. This is for the SFX power supply. If you're using that, you can attach SSDs, so you actually see it's labeled for you. All right, so I looked at the manual a bit more, and you can actually fit a HDD or SSD down here. And then they have these channels that you can use right about here to fit the fans. So you can either do a 140 or you can do two 120s. So we're gonna build it now. We're gonna be using some old components, some new components. We might go forward a few steps and also go back a few steps because we just don't know in terms of the fitment. So we're gonna see if we can fit this cooler in. If we can't, then we'll run the one fan setup. So we're gonna see if we can use the Jonsbo CR3000E ARGB. It's a dual fan setup. So let's open it up. Here we have it. Let's see if this actually fits. All right, so we've been playing around with the case. We tried using the ITX motherboard in this, but there's way too much compromises. Well, it makes sense because they have a dedicated case for this, which is called the C6, that you can use the ITX setup. So we're going to go back to using a mATX motherboard for the C6 Max, and we're going to be using this cooler right here. So this is the Jonsbo CR3000E. It's massive, and if you're going to be using a cooler like this, you got to be aware of clearance for the RAM. So in our case, because this sits a bit too high, we have to push the fan up a bit just to clear the RAM like this. So that's what we're gonna do. So if you want to run fans up here as well, you're gonna have to install these brackets that extend this mount lower. And if you're gonna be using an ATX power supply, you're gonna have to take this piece off because this actually gets in the way of the buttons. So I'll show you right now. So we're doing this. As you can see, this piece sits on top of this power button. So what you have to do, you gotta make sure you're gonna be sticking to one power supply, because once you take this off, you can't put it back on. So in our case, we're gonna be using ATX, so we're gonna apply pressure here and then rotate this off. All right, there you go. All right, so there's some things you have to consider for your power supply. So as you can see right now, the best way for us to route this cable is through in between these two brackets. But since our cable slots in like this, if we were to try to install a fan right here, right? This actually gets in the way. So depending on your power supply, the way the orientation of this plug is, that's something to have to consider. We could potentially flip this around and then our plug can sit like this. But then that means the air is being pulled in from the hot side. So in our case, we're gonna sacrifice this fan right here in order for this fan to face outwards. And that means we're gonna have to plug it in like this. And we're gonna have to run one less fan on the top. All right, so we started plugging the cables. And something to take a notice is these cutouts aren't very big. So I have here a cable. As you can see, it doesn't necessarily fit through. So that's something to keep in mind. So I think these are meant for more for fans, plugs. So let's plug in the rest. F panel, this is the power button. Restart. Plug it in. There we go. All right, now we're gonna be popping in all the case fans. We're gonna be using the Jonsbo FR606. This is the ARGB Infinity mirrorless. Right here. So they come in standard and reverse. So for our setup, we're going to be using standard here, and on the bottom too is going to be reverse. So let's get to it. All right, time to install the graphic card. Get rid of the shield. So we went ahead and actually routed some of the cables for the fans off camera. So we didn't think this through and just realized that this power supply is actually a bit too big, or this graphic card is too big for this power supply. So what we're gonna try to do is, since we're not using a fan here anyways, we're gonna remove these extenders and then see if we can mount this thing directly onto here and see if we have enough clearance down here to insert this graphic card. So we'll try that out right now. All right, so we got rid of these extensions for the PSU bracket. So we're able to push this further up, and hopefully that gives just enough clearance to make this work. So there you have it. That's a finished build on the C6 Max. Before I close up the panels, I kind of do want to bring up some highlights and also some things to be aware of when you're building into this. First off, this is quite easy to take on and off in terms of all the panels because they're all snap-on, so that's very, very simple. Something to keep in mind though is the power supply, right? So the power supply that you use dictates what you can do in this case. So if you're running a full-size ATX, and if you have this oriented this way, that basically blocks your ability to run a fan up here. So what I recommend is if you can actually run an SFX, a smaller one, and have this facing the other way so that you get the full size of this to use for another fan. Something also to keep in mind is there isn't that much space for cabling. So as you can see right here, full-size ATX, there's not much gap here to run cables through. And additionally, look at these grommets or these holes, can't really fit power cables through them. So that's something to keep in mind. As you can see right now, since we're running an ATX power supply, the cable lengths are extremely long. So it's an absolute mess in here. So definitely recommend custom cables, and if you can run an SFX, that will give you a little bit more room. And you can also potentially run a fan up here as well. So again, be considerate of the length of your graphic card because this does get in the way. And again, no issues with the build quality, exceptional build quality again from Jonsbo. So that's about it. So if you have any questions or concerns about this case, do drop us a comment below and we'll see if we can answer it. But right now, I'm just gonna pop up all the panels in and give you a final look. So here we have the 3 mATX case from Jonsbo, the 3 newest ones. So we have the D32 Pro, the C6 Max, and the Z20. They all do the same thing, but a little bit different. But personally for me, I like the D32 Pro just because it's a little bit bigger, easy to build in. But as you can see, the different sizes and how much space they take up on your desk. All right, the last piece to add is the strap. Pretty sturdy. So that's it for the C6 Max from Jonsbo. If you guys like, please subscribe, like, hit the bell notification, and we'll see you guys in the next one.